Good afternoon, commissioners and others who are joining us this afternoon. And thank you for taking your time out for your lunch schedule to join the Office of Planning as we begin our outreach for the proposed RA-1 residential apartment zone text amendment. We do ask that you do hold all comments and questions until the end of our presentation, which should not be very long. And so I'll just get us started. I am Shepard Beeman. I am a development review specialist with the Office of Planning, and I'm joined by my colleague here, Michael.
Yeah, and I'm Michael Yurkovich, also a development review specialist with the Office of Planning.
So this meeting today is, for one, this meeting is being recorded and will be available on a website that we have dedicated to this specific text amendment, which we will share the link with you after this presentation. But essentially, this meeting is to gather feedback and comments and questions from ANC commissioners regarding the review and text amendment of the RA-1 zone, which is the residential apartment zone. This was a request by the DC Zoning Commission, and is also in response to issues raised by ANCs and residents at the Board of Zoning Adjustment public hearings. And so the list of goals here are what we hope to achieve with this amendment. But I think some of the primary goals we want to accomplish with are to explore development standards for flexible new development that's compatible with the existing neighborhoods. And we also want to explore expansions of permitted uses. And then we also want to explore the development review standards and requirements for applicants, as well as for the Board of Zoning Adjustments. And just a brief background here. So the RA-1 zone intends to permit flexibility in low to moderate density residential development, ranging from detached housing, single family housing, all the way up to low to moderate housing, or multifamily housing. And when we look at this district-wide map here, we will see that there are few to no areas that have the RA-1 zone in the wards 1, 2, and 6. And so a lot of it occurs in the periphery of the district. So in wards 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8. So currently, one-family detached and semi-detached dwellings are permitted by right, whereas new row homes, flats, and multifamily buildings require a special exception review by the Board of Zoning Adjustment. And additions to existing multifamily buildings also require review by the Board of Zoning, the BZA.
Yeah, and as Shepard touched on briefly before, we will be making some slight changes to the RA-1's development standards, but we will not be making any changes to any non-residential uses. All those development standards will be remaining the same. For this, from a lot dimension standpoint, the only new real potential change would be the introduction of standards for row homes, as there's currently none. It's all just the purview of the BZA currently. Moving into the next slide, one of the most substantive changes we're contemplating right now is a change to the side yard requirements. We're kind of raising the floor a little bit in that we'll no longer be examining the number of units per floor. We will just be expecting an 8-foot side yard for these 4-unit apartment house or 4-unit flats. Going forward is what we're thinking at this time. Other than that, we're not anticipating any other changes to lot occupancy, green area ratio, or vehicle parking at this time.
So now we're going to look at just a brief overview of the matter of right or by right uses. So in terms of new residential developments, again, as I mentioned before, uh, the zoning regulations allow for detached and semi-detached dwellings by right. Uh, So thus far, the Office of Planning has considered expanding the uses permitted by right to include row dwellings and apartment buildings consisting of no more than 4 units. Apartment buildings with more than 4 units would still require BZA review and approval. And then we've also examined by right expansions and renovations of existing buildings. So currently, an increase in the number of dwelling units requires BZA approval, whether that be a single-family home, expanding and adding a apartment unit in their basement or cellar, or a granny flat, whatever you want to call that. That requires BZA approval. In addition to multifamily buildings having to also come in for approval for additions to those buildings as well. We've considered allowing more flexibility for renovations to allow existing buildings to increase the number of units by 50% or 4 units, whichever is less, to be allowed by right. And units exceeding this allowance would again require BZA review and approval.
And also with this text amendment, we're taking a look at the special exception review process for these apartment homes. Currently, the process requires review by the Board of Zoning Adjustment, and we have found that the expectations are not clear from the applicant side as to what should be included in their submittal, as well as what the BZA is allowed to ask of applicants accordingly. So some of the things we were wishing to clarify is required as part of this review is building materials, design is how it relates to alignment of windows of other residential properties and the locations of the proposed doors, lighting, grading, landscaping, screening, etc. All these things are currently required, but as we said, we're hoping to clarify that these are the expectations for when these new apartment house developments do come forward in the RA. Here's just kind of a side by side of, if you took a plain reading of the text today, what an applicant could see as being the filing requirements versus what we want to make clear on the right.
So here's a proposed timeline and process of the adoption of this text amendment. And so we're currently in, again, the very early stages of this adoption or this review and adoption process. So right now we're in the A and C open houses. We had one Tuesday evening, and then we have this one today, this afternoon. This is again just for A and C commissioners to give you an overview of what we're proposing to do, as well as to hear from you all in regards to your either previous experiences with this zone, if you have any, or if you have any recommendations for improvements to the regulations for the specific zone. But then we're going to also open it up to the general public for that comment period as well. That'll be ongoing from Tuesday ongoing. And again, you are more than welcome to visit our website and submit comments to this email on the screen here. And then we anticipate having a formal zoning application submitted to the Office of Zoning in February. This application will be available for viewing to the public through the ISIS website. And then we hope to have the Zoning Commission set down, which is our first meeting with the Zoning Commission. And this is where the Zoning Commission determines if the application is ready for public hearing. But again, throughout this entire process, we are taking all public comment. And then following that, in March, the actual public hearing will be determined after the set down. So that has to be determined. But during the public hearing, the public will actually have opportunity to provide either written or in-person testimony about any proposed changes to this zone. So again, we want to emphasize that there will be ample opportunities for ANC commissioners and the general public to provide us feedback on this specific zoning text amendment.
So at this time, we would really like to turn it to you all, our ANC commissioners, to provide us any comments or questions. As Shepard briefly stated, we really want to focus on what are some of your experiences with new development in the RA-1 zone, as well as any challenges or opportunities in these developments that you could see moving forward in the BZA process. So if you all either want to raise your hands or put a question in the chat, we can unmute you on our side if you wish to speak. And yeah, so whenever you all are ready, we're open for questions.
Thanks, Michael and Shepard. This is Joel Lawson. Hi, everybody. And just a big thank you to all of the ANC commissioners who are available to attend the meeting today. I'm the Associate Director for Development Review. I just wanted to emphasize one point just for clarity for a number of the commissioners on this call. And Shepard, if you could go back to the slide that shows the map of the ANCs. I just wanted to reinforce that, we're only looking at the RA-1 zone here. And as Shepard pointed out, we're not proposing to rezone any properties either to or from the RA zone. We're just dealing with what the RA zone is it's currently mapped would allow. So this map shows where all of the RA-1 zoning is in the district. You can see that some ANCs have no RA-1 zoning at all. We're still interested in receiving any comments you may have, but if RA-1 is not very familiar to you, or if you don't remember reviewing any BZA cases in the RA-1 zone, it may be that your ANC doesn't have any RA-1 zoning in it. And again, we're not proposing to create new RA-1 zone property as part of this initiative. So just want to make that really clear to everybody. Thanks again. And as Shepard said, we're really looking forward to hearing your experience in working with neighbors and working with developers or owners of property who are proposing developments in the RA-1 zone. Thanks. That's it for me.
Thanks, Joel.
And I think with that, if you do have questions, feel free to add them to the chat, or as Josh just did, put your hand up, and Shepard and Michael will call on you for your question. Thanks again.
Well, as Joel just mentioned, we have our first hand raised. So Commissioner Jacobson, if you don't mind providing your comments or questions.
Yeah, thanks again so much for hosting this webinar. I was here on Tuesday. I have been thinking a lot since Tuesday, and I guess one of my questions is just like, it seems that this is being explored due to the urging of the Zoning Commission and some of the challenges that they've had. What would it take for OP to explore other zoning text amendments that, maybe other commissioners or ANCs would like to see, like more proactivity and more housing in their ANC area?
Well, again, this has come about, I believe, more so from the cases that have been presented to the Board of Zoning Adjustment. So again, these are to address specifically those regulations related to the RA-1. If there are any other issues with other zones that either have not been brought up at the BZA or at the Zoning Commission or to OP personally, we are, I think, also open to those recommendations if there are any issues that need to be addressed. But we haven't heard anything. So again, typically we respond to those issues that we hear frequently, but we haven't heard anything else except for specifically this zone, which again has gone up to the level of the Zoning Commission. So we are responding to those issues and requests.
Yeah, and with this effort, we're really focusing on what I think the zoning commission more sees as a clarification of the expectations of the RA-1. As you may or may not know, OP, and Shepherd can maybe briefly talk about this, it is beginning the process of our comp plan rewrite. And I think more specific recommendations to maybe changes to other zones would probably be more appropriate for that process in that outreach stages.
Mhm.
We're really, like I said, this is really targeted, more of a clarification to the text itself.
Yeah, I guess I get that, but if it is just a clarification, it seems like it's generally non-controversial then and shouldn't require a ton of outreach. So I guess I'm really wondering, like, there are a lot of zones in Ward 1 that aren't, the zoning isn't up to par with what is allowed by the existing comp plan. So, like, what would it take for OP to go ahead and submit zoning text amendments or to like upzone some of those areas?
Yeah, so in our section, which is the development review team, we kind of have a list of areas that OP is looking to rezone based on either small area plans or other planning activities. I do not know the whole list, but so what I'm saying is OP does, in our role, rezone some properties as it is appropriate with the comp plan and any associated small area plans. If there was a specific small area plan that you maybe felt should be paid more attention to, I think that's a different discussion than what we're trying to have here. I don't know if Joel wants to elaborate.
Yeah, I would just kind of reinforce what you just said, Michael, that Commissioner Jacobson, we'd be happy to talk with you about, other issues that you have in your ANC regarding zoning. We are certainly, as Shepherd and Michael pointed out, prioritizing some of the specific changes that were recommended in the current comprehensive plan. So we've taken forward zoning map amendment changes along portions of Pennsylvania Avenue. We are in the process of providing some for sections of Connecticut and Wisconsin Avenue. But it may be, as Michael pointed out, if we have that conversation, it may be that we would be pointing to you towards the comprehensive plan update that is just about to kick off kind of early this year, which might be the appropriate way to make sure that there's comprehensive plan language sufficient to kind of take the zoning in the direction that you feel it should go. But we're happy to have that conversation kind of as a separate conversation with you.
Okay, yeah, I can follow up on that. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
All right. Commissioner Kaufman, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Excellent. Hi there. Thank you so much for hosting this. And apologies, I got on late. I was getting a message that the event wasn't live yet. So I'll follow up with IT next about why I was not able to join. So if there are recording or slides that could be shared afterwards, would definitely appreciate that. But by and large, from what I've seen, this makes a lot of sense and kind of aligns with how I've interpreted, the purpose of RA-1 in 4D. The only two RA-1 zones are actually in my SMD, and our constituents want more affordable housing, and I think this would help enable the development of more housing more easily. That aligns with the kind of intention of the zone. And so I just think that this makes a lot of sense, and I agree with Commissioner Jacobson. This doesn't really seem controversial to me, but appreciate the transparency and communication.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it. Commissioner Roth, since you turned your camera on, I went ahead. You can unmute yourself now if you want to speak.
You're still muted.
Teams here. Yeah, I'm all confused here on Teams this afternoon. So I agree with Commissioner Kaufman. I think this I appreciate the reduction in our workload here, but my question is, how does this affect the notification to the ANC and the public engagement process with community and neighbors? So would this mean that if a homeowner or a property owner decides to, renovate or do something to their property, if it's by right, there's no real process that they would have to go through, no real engagement, no real notification to those around them that changes are coming?
So yes, if you had an existing apartment house that met our proposal that it's either within 50% or 4 units, whichever is less, then you would be able to do that renovation by right. There wouldn't, just like you would do any other by right permit.
Okay. All right. Well, will you encourage, property owners, homeowners to engage with the community, engage with their neighbors, if this, even though it's a by right project?
Well,
So
certainly we always encourage developers to work with their neighbors and to work with their ANC. One of the things that we're hoping to achieve in this is that for projects that are not matter of right, that do go to the Board of Zoning Adjustment, that the criteria are much clearer than they are now. Clearer to the ANC, clearer to, frankly, us, and certainly clearer to the applicant and the Board of Zoning Commission members, just what the criteria are, what it is that we're trying to achieve, what are the issues related with some of these kinds of development that we want to make sure can be addressed through the BZA process. And that's one of the reasons why we're reaching out to you all as people who have, RA-1 zoning within your community and have maybe dealt with some of these BZA cases, and what have been, kind of the frustrations that you may have experienced in kind of assessing or working with the applicant as part of those BZA cases.
Yeah, at least for me, I'm here in Brooklyn. I think some of the frustrations that I've seen over the years is just part of the, even if it's very simple, property changes, very basic, a lot of times it's just the community public engagement process that happens when neighbors think something's going on, especially when you're in neighborhoods that are changing, very, very fast. Yeah.
Thank you for those comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's our comment about obtaining copies of the presentation. The presentation, and Shepard, you can probably talk to this better than me, but I believe that the presentation and in fact a video of this meeting are going to be posted on the Office of Planning website, both this meeting and the meeting that we held, the similar meeting we held on Tuesday on this initiative. Is that right, Shepard?
That is correct. Yeah, and I've included a link to that actual webpage where you can find information about our project. You can actually see the maps per ward in terms of where RA-1 is located in each ward. And then again, we'll also include our presentation and recordings from today's and Tuesday's meeting. So yeah, you have all the access there. And again, I guess we encourage you to share this information with your constituents if you feel that's necessary. But yeah, it's all there for you all to use and read.
So we're not seeing any other questions. And as Shepard said, we're actively taking questions throughout the entirety of this process. Even once we have text drafted, we're still open to hearing what you guys have to think, whether you've read the text or if you have some responses to our posting to the zoning commission. So at this time, if no one has any further questions, I think we'll call the meeting short and give you guys back 30 minutes of your time. Guys, have a good rest of your day and
Thank
happy
you.
lunch.
Hey, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye now.
Much.